Hi, Dan.
Hi, Chad. What's happening, buddy?
We are here with another special episode, Others from Another Mother. We just witnessed a new interview with a new whistleblower coming out, Jake Barber. Mm-hmm. NewsNation just did a special report on him with Ross Coulthart, and he had some new video for us, some new information, some kind of new experiences from a whistleblower's perspective on like what he went through with his situation. I'm guessing like a lot of people that are listening to this right now have either watched it by now or are familiar with it, but maybe we should give them a quick rundown on what we just saw and what happened.
Great idea. We literally just like we got done watching and came right into the studio and started recording. So it's fresh on our minds.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. So this guy, Jake Barber, was before he was in the crash retrieval recovery teams, possibly, he was a airplane and possible helicopter mechanic who ended up becoming a helicopter pilot, right?
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
Claimed that he worked for the U.S. Air Force for like close to 30 years or something like that.
30 years.
And worked with the government in official and non-official capacities and all sorts of different things. But it wasn't until he started working in these more, very, well, what do you say? Sensitive programs. Yeah. And he claims that in this video that he just produced, that it was a situation where he was recovering a craft of unknown origin, a UFO, UAP, whatever, and it was this egg-shaped object. And in the video, it shows you can see the line from his helicopter dropping down to this it looked like an egg, and it's in night vision, so it's like the green type of visual of this thing, and so it's grainy, it's green. It's interesting. It's a fresh look at like something close up that we've never seen anything like this in particular. It's definitely a brand new thing in regards to video footage of UAPs and whatnot. And it's a pretty bold claim. He has a pretty impeccable background. People have done a lot of background check on him. Like everybody at NewsNation said that we went thoroughly, and this guy is who he is. He has a strong background, and he seems to be legitimate, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah. As far as I can remember, I mean, again, lifelong interest in this topic. I've never seen a video of a crash retrieval. We hear about them existing. You would assume that if we're to believe that there's crash retrieval programs, that many of the recoveries are videotaped or are chronicled with photographs and
Have to be.
Yeah. But that stuff until possibly now has never come out. So it's interesting. No matter what you think of the video, we're going to break it down completely. I think there's three of us in the room. Dave Brown is here as well, and I think we might all have strong and possibly differing opinions on what we saw.
I think so.
Man, it was interesting. I liked him as a guy. People since his kind of teaser of this episode came out a few days ago. We're recording this on Saturday, and
yeah.
This story kind of broke on Wednesday, I believe. And there's a little clip that went around, and there's a lot of talk of like this guy looks like he's crazy, with just wide-eyed look, which is valid, but he's been through some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I liked the dude. My initial feeling is that I liked the guy, and he talks about some stuff that I did not expect.
That was surprising.
So we'll get into that as well. So what do you make at the moment of his initial claim of, I did this, I think he said for 10 years he worked on the crash retrieval teams? Is that what he said? Did I miss that? Did he say that?
I'm not sure if I caught that exact time.
I think I heard him say that he was doing this for 10 years. So a 30-year career.
That's a lot of time to
10
be
recovering.
recovering.
10 years, I believe, dedicated to the program, I guess.
Okay. That'd make me wide-eyed too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I really feel like he seems like a legitimate guy with a legitimate background coming forth and making a very incredibly bold claim. As far as whistleblowers go, this is kind of the first whistleblower with firsthand, he was there. He's bringing forth video footage that nobody else has really brought the equivalent of. I mean, we've seen a lot of FLIR and radar footage of stuff and whatnot, but this is a direct night vision right down the rope from his helicopter right down to this egg-shaped craft that they say is about 25 feet in length.
The craft was 25 feet. The rope from the camera to the object that was 150 feet. That's how long the rope was.
Right. That's how that's as close as he got to it. That's what he said too, right?
Yeah, and you and I, by the way, before we watched this, you and I were at dinner with friends. We made plans last week to have this dinner right before this announcement came. So while we're at dinner, we're still kind of like looking at our phones, and we checked out just the video on its own with no sound when we were at dinner. So with no context, no backstory.
Yeah.
What was your initial feeling seeing just the night vision video while we were at dinner with no context?
I always want more, and I'm always going to want more. I want clarity. I want to see something a little bit more convincing. David said it kind of perfectly a little bit ago. Like you showed this to a skeptic, they'd be like, "Oh, great, another grainy video." Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can see this egg, and it looks like it could be just an egg in like a bowl of oatmeal or something with a grainy night vision filter on it. It's not uber convincing to anybody, but it's more the fact of who it came from, what his background is, what all his accolades are and whatnot that make it a little bit more legitimate, for sure. I have the natural skeptic in me that makes me look at it and like, oh, damn it. Like I wanted it to be better, but it's still, if it is really what it is, it's mind blowing. It's incredible. Like here's a craft that we have proof of a recovery program, first of all, which is really important. The UAP aside, that this like further proves that there is a crash retrieval program that has been in existence forever, which is what we've been trying to uncover for a while,
right,
with a lot of these whistleblowers.
Right.
And that's a big point of fact. Other than we're already to the point where we know that there's UAPs, there's UFOs, there's things going on.
We're past the point of like, is it maybe? Yeah, right.
And
right.
I think just helping the case that there is a crash retrieval program and that this is evidence that supports that is an important push and is an important thing.
I agree. I think when all of us think of like there's a video coming, we imagine this 4K, guy walking all around and like, here's a scratch on the thing. We can see every aspect of it. But I've learned over the years to not expect that anymore. So many videos are blurry out of focus, which some say is like that's kind of the nature of the phenomenon anyway. They're hard to photograph. They're hard to see sometimes. So my expectations for this were low. So I think that when I first saw it, I'm like, this is not what I expected. But I feel impressed by it because I believe that these things happen. And this is just when we watched it at the restaurant. I hadn't really heard what the guy said yet. Right. At the restaurant, I'm like, well, yes, of course, I wish it was better, but I also feel incredibly not grateful, but stoked that this is out. So that being said, when you said you believe in the program, you believe that this stuff happens, do you, and Dave too, do you guys believe that video is from a UFO crash retrieval?
If I had to bet, I'd say yes, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay. Dave Brown.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any doubt that the video is real. I don't think, to me, it shows a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a cool piece of the puzzle, I suppose, but it's not that's the whole picture. I don't know.
It's definitely not the whole picture.
It didn't blow my mind when I saw it. It wasn't like, oh, this new video's out and I got to show people this is the thing.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I would be hesitant to show this to any of my skeptical friends that are just, even on the fence about the whole phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't show them this video right away just because it's, it's just another one of those grainy videos that's just like, well, it looks like an egg.
If it was in color, do you think you would? If it wasn't green, if it was like an HD video from the same angle, do you think that would make a difference?
It would help a lot.
Okay.
It would help a lot.
Dave, what But still,
I think the big thing for me is the only background on it is dirt. There's nothing to like paint a size or frame of reference. So to me, it's just,
I understand
it's not
that.
like, like if you showed it to somebody who didn't believe in this stuff or wasn't interested, like it is no way like the smoking gun, like, look, we have proof. It's cool if you like hear the whole story and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. But I mean, that thing could be 1 inch. It could be 100 feet. Like there's nothing to tell me what I'm really looking at other than this background story.
Okay, so there it is. So there it is. You already said. So we came back here, we watched the whole episode together. So with the context of now, there's Jake, there's Ross Coulthart. Also, there was 3 guys that were also on the show who backed up Jake's claims.
Right.
At least one of the guys, has been part of his retrieval teams before. I don't know if he was on the egg one, but he's been on a couple.
Right.
So with the whole context of the show, how does that make you feel about the video?
I guess I'm thinking more in terms of like what the general public is going to think about this and how it advances the whole movement in general, let alone like aside from my.
Let's ask you first.
Okay,
Yeah.
For me, it's amazing. It's great. Here's a couple more well-qualified people with a very solid background. All the credentials that you would need for somebody like this to come forward with this type of thing. Mm-hmm. They're legit, and they've been checked out. It's legit. And here's another, grainy video, but it's a video of a recovery of a craft.
Yeah.
And if all those things are true, and we kind of have to just take that at face value right now, like there's no certificate of authenticity on these types of things. If it is what it is, then it's mind blowing.
Right.
It's fucking incredible.
Right.
And we always are gonna want more out of quality and out of substance out of these things, but I think we should just be happy with. We got one more thing that we can throw on the pile of proof, and I'm good with that. What about you?
I'm impressed by it. I mean, I like anything that comes out. I'm so used to being disappointed, like everybody else. Like happy there's something new, but like, why can't it be better? It's almost like selfish in a way, but I also understand that we want people that believe this. We want that one picture, that one video, so we can say, here, see, it's true. I told you this whole time, but now I don't even know if that's even a possible thing. Like with the way things are nowadays, I don't think there's one single video that's gonna make everyone believe. But watching the show, listening to Jake Barber and listening to the guys around him, and knowing that Ross is a pretty good interviewer. Ross has been working on the story for 2 years. Mm-hmm. That adds a lot for me. Also, you and I were at an event last night with some pretty, some cool UFO friends of ours. And this topic, this show came up. No one had seen it yet, of course. It was last night. But topic of this video came up with a mutual friend of all of ours. And I was speaking to him about it. And he told me that this video being shown, he had not seen it yet, but he knew kind of what it was going to be. And he told me that this is from a much longer video.
Right.
I think he said it was like a 20-minute, the whole thing is, I think he said it was like 20 minutes. And the reason they're not showing the whole thing, I'll find out if I can leave this in the show or not, but the end of the video ends in an incredibly violent confrontation. I don't know if it's some kind of gunfight. I assume that's what it is, but NewsNation didn't want to show the whole thing because some kind of sensitivity is about some ultra-violent altercation that happens at the end of the video, which makes it more interesting to me. Like, then it's like, are they recovering something from a foreign nation, or is there other people that are trying to recover it at the same time? Like, this is also context that I would love to get at some point, because that adds a lot to the claim.
Sure. What I just have to back up and think about the presentation and what NewsNation is trying to do. They're trying to make this aware to the public. They're trying to convince the public that this is a real thing that we need to go after, that we need to work together and get the collective consciousness of people to be convinced that this is something that we have to go after and uncover.
So that we can put the pressure on Congress and stuff like that, right?
Right. And just like to break the stigma so we can even just talk about these types of things and take these grainy videos a little bit more seriously. And I think that it kind of does a disservice sometimes, like when some of these productions are kind of done in a kind of a cheesy fashion, which they just can't get away from. I don't know why they can't get away from it and like make these feel a little bit more legit, just like some of like the cheesy shots and the cheesy music.
Like I almost wish PBS would do these things.
Honestly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like Ross
saying.
Coulthart is an amazing person for tackling such a tough subject.
Yeah.
That's full of ridicule, and it's tough for me to even talk about this stuff still, just on a personal level. It's a tough subject to go after, but if you're gonna do it, like just try to make it as legit as possible and as clear cut for people, and don't fill it up with like a bunch of bullshit and whatnot. I just think it needs to be a little bit more direct and raw, and present it like in a kind of like a more science focused fashion.
Off the top of your head, is there bullshit in this that you are thinking about specifically?
Yeah, just like some of like just it's kind of just more of like the general approach of the production of this thing, that it's like a show and like they're almost like gaslighting us in a weird way. It's like they're just like feeding us just a little bit more to keep us interested, just like to keep the ratings going. Like when you said like they have 25 minutes and like it ends in this battle or whatever it might be, a shootout, whatever it might end up being, and again we'll find out if we can talk about this or not. The fact that they're just not showing all of it to me is fucking bullshit.
If it's news, right?
It's news. Otherwise they're like, oh yeah, we have all this, but it's for us, we're not showing it. Like, fuck you.
Right.
Then what's the fucking point?
Right. I get that. And that's it's from like, again, I know this is used a lot, but like just a sensitive location where they shouldn't be. Maybe there's like a fight going on with people that we don't know about, and maybe it's maybe there's friendly fire. Maybe it's we're trying to take it from our own.
That's even a better news story.
I get that.
I just think that like all of this, it just does a disservice because it just like inches out like a little bit more, and
it's not the full story.
No, it's not the full story, and we're nowhere. I don't think we're in a better position of transparency and disclosure because of this. I think it just almost like it makes it seem just shadier every time.
Really?
Like, yeah. I honestly think like that. I honestly think that it just like makes the whole theme seem like a gaslighting exercise. Like, oh, here's a little bit more from this. Like, but only 30 seconds of an egg on a rope. Like,
you're nodding. You think you agree?
I agree with this. I almost feel like the more that comes out, the more I'm kind of skeptical and just frustrated by the whole thing.
More skeptical and frustrated, or more like what do you?
Yeah, I think.
So you believe less, or just?
I don't know if I believe less, but I just feel like I'm being taken advantage of because I'm interested in the topic more. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It's like they're gaining for ratings and more viewership.
It doesn't feel like they're trying to push the football into the end zone as much as they're like, just give them like 2 inches, just give them a yard, just get them slightly closer to a first down. Like that feeling of just like, okay, like you got me. I watched another hour and you gave me a 20-second video.
So you're feeling the opposite, though. You feel like this is moving us in the right direction?
I absolutely do. I mean, again, let's say it again. If we are to believe that this is what it is, we just watched a fucking video of a UFO crash retrieval. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
All the grain.
It's insane.
All the background shit aside, NewsNation's whatever their angle is aside, whatever. If it's Ross trying to build up his credibility to get more Twitter followers, great. We just watched a fucking video of a crash retrieval. Possibly, That's fucking monumental.
It's monumental
on its own.
But what's even more fucked up is like that's how fucked up the situation is, because that's so monumental that still nobody else will care about it except for people who are in the
That's
subject.
also just the nature of society nowadays anyway, too.
Everybody's just going to look at it and be like, fucking bullshit, next. Mm-hmm. They're going to flip to the next fucking thing. Well, not on TikTok anymore. But it's just, I think the whole thing is just being done so poorly. I think that these whistleblowers are like, I mean, I thank them so much for what they're doing, but I think they're almost just like doing themselves more harm and not doing the whole.
Well,
it's not it's not moving the ball forward.
It's pretty commonly understood too that these whistleblowers, like the real whistleblowers, David Rush, Lou, Mr. Barber at this point, they come forward to literally protect their own lives. Like if there's threats against what they might say, they get threats from weird agencies against their life. The best way to protect yourself is to go public and talk about stuff that you've known or that you've seen or done.
Yeah.
So there could be some of that. I mean, in this episode, there's talks about how he thinks there was an attempt on his life and his team's life by somebody. Mm-hmm. So that could be why they're coming forward and saying as much as they possibly can too.
Do you think that there is a way to protect these whistleblowers and just to have full disclosure? Do you think there's like a safe way of doing that? Like whether
there's
it's
not a safe way. I don't think there's a safe way. And unless, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, because I wanted just to ask you, like, could you see any type of scenario where we all rallied around all these whistleblowers, protected them, like in a group scenario, their family, everything, to get full disclosure from them and like protect them physically?
Maybe, but like we're talking about these, you look at Barber and he's clearly a highly trained, like tough military dude. Every shirt he's wearing is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu shirt.
Oh no,
like this guy's a tough motherfucker.
Oh, all of these guys are. Yeah,
you're not going to sneak up on this guy.
No.
Well, someone could, but like,
but he could get taken out by a sniper rifle.
Of course,
but,
and
all these things, and like it just seems like there seems to be such a big underbelly, like a big fan base of all this type of stuff, of people that could come together to support these guys a little bit better, and I would be a part of that.
Sure,
to actually let these whistleblowers actually be whistleblowers, because I just don't. I'm not. Yeah, I just think the whole thing is just not moving, despite these massive people coming out with massive testimony.
Yeah.
That, like, how can that not move the needle?
Because the people that they are fighting are just stronger. And there's been a 70, 80 year planned and perfectly executed stigma campaign on this topic, period. And it's working so well. So even like, I don't know how much of the population cares about this, but like maybe, more than half of society believes that UFOs exist. Okay, cool, great, we understand. How many people talk about this shit the way we do? 1%? 5%? I don't know. But I think the only way, like my dream would be for everybody involved in the program that wants to speak all comes forward at the same time with hard drives. Like the people that shouldn't take stuff out of facilities do that. Mm-hmm. Let's say you get 50 people with claims like Barbers, Grushes, and more. People firsthand. I worked on bodies. I flew a fucking UFO from here to New York in 3 seconds, or whatever it is. All of them coming together with all this information, being like, here we are, arrest all of us. All of them willing to go to jail for the rest of their lives or face execution or something. That might be, I mean, that's my dream, is that everyone does it at the same time. Like, pull a hard drive out, here's everything. Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
I know what I'm asking is so tough.
Yeah, of course. They're so trying to. Like, Jeremy Corbell, his new season of his show, of the TMZ show, UFO Revolution, came out. And in one of the episodes, he's trying to bring a whistleblower, trying to think of a way to bring a whistleblower to speak to Nancy Mace, Tim Burchett, and Paulina Luna behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. There's no way to, like, how do you make plans? You can't say, hey, I'm going to bring a whistleblower in because all the phones are tapped. There's no way to do it. So what he did was, when they're doing the film, he had a film crew with him for the season of the show. He's going in, speaking to these representatives. And at one point, he says, like, okay, cut all the cameras, everybody out.
Right.
What he did was, one of the whistleblowers, I believe it's the person that authored the Immaculate Constellation document,
right,
blended in with the crew. We had like a boom or some shit. He snuck that person in with the film crew, and then when he told everybody to get out, that motherfucker stayed in the room. So you have you have to somehow be smarter than the people that don't want you to speak.
Yeah.
So getting people to speak openly or even speak privately is incredibly difficult because every move is tracked.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know the best way to do it.
I know. It's like,
I wish I did.
I know. These guys are such patriots too. Like, oh, like we should just take them to another country and work with another government to, have.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there's a country that would do that wouldn't extradite?
Not extradition country.
But even though, like, even still, like, if that were to happen, we would just send some team over there to take them out regardless.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
So listen, we've talked quite a bit about the video. Should we talk about other aspects of the show?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to talk about Barber's personal experience with this, and the whole spiritual aspect. I thought was really intriguing.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, but do you want?
Yep, go for it. What's the basics of what we just saw?
That it's kind of along the lines of what a lot of other people have had with their personal experiences. That he had this overwhelming emotional.
Well, what was he doing at the moment when it happened? Do you remember what was happening when he had that feeling?
No.
So he was on his way in the helicopter to go retrieve something that they called an 8-gon. 8-gon is what they called it, which was like, he talked about a craft that when you see it from the top, it was like a disc, flying saucer. From the top, it had like 8 clear segments or 8, like a pizza, basically, 8 slices of a thing. They called it 8-gon, and when he was flying to go retrieve it, I believe, he started getting these feelings that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And what was he feeling?
Like an overwhelming spiritual feeling of love and compassion. He said, I had this very feminine energy.
And sadness. He said sadness, too.
And sadness,
Yep.
yeah. And, that kind of really fits in a lot with a lot of these experiences that people have. And, it ties in with a lot of these other phenomena going on right now. Everything from the telepathy tapes and, nonverbal autistic people really, explaining that there's this large, overwhelming feeling of love and everything that interconnects everything that a lot of these experiencers have with the same type of feelings. I think that's more reassuring. And I love hearing these stories, how they intertwine with these feelings, these strong emotions with this loving energy.
I mean, he started crying. I mean, he was on his way to go pick up a craft.
Yeah.
And he's like, again, like a tough military veteran who started weeping as he's piloting a helicopter.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know if I should abort the mission. I don't know what to do. He goes, I have a very simple job here of like, fly
Funny
over.
enough, that was like the most legitimate thing about the show to me in a weird way.
Why? Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Well, only because, I do reference it to all these other scenarios and different phenomena where they discuss these overwhelming feelings of love and emotional experiences that coincide with these things. And seeing him break down and explain that was just like, wow, that just kind of verifies that whole idea that is an overwhelming thing that covers all these different phenomena that were.
I mean, he cried. He cried retelling the story.
Yeah.
He broke into tears in the interview.
Yeah. I think that's great. And for me, just because I'm aware of these things and we talk about these things, things and study these things, that we know that is a reoccurring symptom.
Do we know when those retrievals happened? Did they mention that in the show?
I don't know.
Do you remember that at all? Because he said that since he felt that overwhelming feeling flying to pick that thing up, that he still has like the hangover from it is still there. He still feels that way. Right. He still feels those feelings.
Yeah.
Like this connection to whatever that was, which is, again, if we're to believe what he's saying and believe who he says he is and does what he does, that is an astounding claim.
Yeah.
That like this thing changed the way he feels at that moment, and he still does.
Yeah.
Even if it's a week, 6 months, years later, that's incredible.
For sure. And I don't want, anybody to get me wrong as far as what my personal feelings are with this whole show and everything and what we just witnessed. I mean, it still blows me away. It's incredible because I do believe almost assuredly that this is real, that he is who he is, and the video is legitimate and everything. It's mind-blowing. However, I guess what I was discussing earlier was just kind of the general movement and whether or not this had a positive effect on it.
Will you send this to anybody? Will you send that video to anybody?
Not in the way that it is right now. It'd have to be like kind of put together in the right package of like, okay, here's this uber legitimate military veteran who worked on recovery programs, and he's going to be testifying. I mean, I hope he's going to go testify under
I have
oath.
to assume.
Yeah, if he's going this far, I hope so. And I think like when that happens, that always legitimizes things for a lot of our skeptical friends. You know, it's like, oh no, they were under oath at Congress, and if they're lying, they go to jail.
And he's already spoken to Arrow, and I believe he's already spoken to Congress.
Yeah,
in like skiffs or whatever.
Okay,
Dave Brown, how do you feel about the spiritual part of this thing, in general and with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely interesting. It's something we've seen talked about before. It's coming more to my awareness like lately. It definitely like telepathy tapes, that kind of stuff. It's cool to hear more about it. I think it might turn some people off.
Sure.
Like, that's not saying he shouldn't be talking about it. It's definitely interesting.
That's what they call the woo.
Yeah. I was going to say this one definitely gets into the woo with like everything being telepathic, especially towards the tail end of them like remote calling UFOs.
We gotta get into that.
We
We
will,
haven't really
yeah.
touched on it yet, but like it does take a hard turn into the woo on this. So like in terms of showing people who might already be skeptics, this wouldn't be my first stop to like
No.
check this guy out. Not discrediting him. I believe everything the guy says. I believe he's legit.
You believe the story.
Yeah, I believe this
Yep.
story.
Yep.
I don't see any reason for him to lie. Like it, I believe his background. I believe what he did is true. I believe he felt those things.
I don't smell bullshit when he talks.
No.
No.
I don't love the packaging of the entire presentation.
Yeah.
But that's not on him,
It's a little salacious, but it's slick. That's a new day of like slick news stories,
Yep.
and I get it's a bit of a turnoff. But the woo thing is interesting because it's something that hasn't really been touched on yet. And at what point is it safe to introduce that part? It's a massive part of the phenomenon in itself. It's a huge part of it. And it's been like the thing you don't talk about. You don't talk about spiritual connections. You don't talk about telepathic messages. You don't talk about even abductions. You don't talk about any of that kind of stuff. So when is the right time to get into it? I don't know.
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
inching towards it because even in Congress when they've brought this up, the spiritual connection of it, and it's kind of.
Did they bring it up in Congress?
Well, I mean, I said that wrong, but it's slowly moving away from these are crafts from another planet. Like these aren't coming from Mars. It's not coming from another solar system. Like the discussion is like they could be interplanetary. It could be us in the future. That
interdimensional.
They were already here.
Break race civilizations. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but then like the interconnectivity between certain people, and like they've brought up remote viewing projects and how a lot of these sightings with people they're kind of willed into their existence, and a lot of experiencers, even yourself, a lot of experiencers have echoed this, that, they kind of like willed it into their presence in a way.
Yeah.
And that it's just kind of beyond like just like a physical thing. That's just,
There's so much to it.
there's so much to it.
It's insane.
I know. And it goes on forever, and we can delve into, our personal consciousness and like what we're saying and whatnot. But I like that it's being talked about more in this fashion, because I think that's where it's eventually going to end up. Like when this finally does maybe break loose, it's going to also break open the idea that it is this higher spiritual level or interdimensional thing that's just kind of beyond our 3D space here.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like the end game, So like maybe that's kind of why this is like just kind of inching, because you can't blow the doors open on this because we literally can't understand what it is.
Of course. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I also want to quickly touch on that he talked about how, I think towards the earlier part of the episode, that they've seen, I believe, I don't know if he's witnessed, but his teams have witnessed craft like just coming out of the ground, coming out of the side of mountains, like flying on one side of a mountain and then flying directly through a mountain.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy shit.
Some crazy shit.
Yeah. I mean, this guy has said a lot of stuff that like is, if you are not even remotely educated on this, you're like, this guy's insane. Like he's saying insane things to a lot of people, but it was fascinating. Should we get into the Psionic Teams?
Sure. I mean, I just learned that word tonight. So.
Me too. So he was talking about how they have in the program Psionics Teams, which I've heard about people connecting, their minds to beings before and having that kind of shit. But like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy was saying like they have teams that can mentally connect with craft themselves and fly them. Like, does he mean like they're overriding whoever the pilots are, or let's say even if they're drone ships, let's say they're not man craft or no beings are in there or whatever, that people are taking control of the craft with their brains?
Yeah.
Or their minds?
Yeah.
That's what he said, right?
That's what I got from it. Yeah. It's incredible.
Where are we at with this?
Fuck if I know.
When you're hearing that, like, what are you forming opinions on it? Are you just letting it in? Where are you guys at with the Psionic Teams?
It keeps pushing me closer and closer to this whole spiritual connectivity with this whole phenomena. And, I'm a person who literally up until several months ago, within the last year, I've reopened my very atheistic,
Same.
Tangible proof type of mindset of how the universe and physics and how everything works, to now being wide open to this, that there is way more than just like what's visually here. It's it's starting to make more sense in that realm.
Like Dave Brown in college, you find yourself open to anything. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know how far that goes. Oh, hey. There's a button. There's a sound effect for that. Right?
I'm not going to use it.
Boink, boink.
Good stuff. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
And I like that we're getting hints of this from every angle of all these things that we love to study, all this weird unknown shit. It's unknown because like we're not... I've been looking at it through the wrong lens, and I think that a lot of science is looking through the wrong lens, and I love guys like Gary Nolan who are able to back off. And I love how he talks shit on Neil deGrasse Tyson, because I can't fucking stand Neil deGrasse Tyson.
One of the smartest moron we've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's got that fucking...
He refuses
to open up. And
a scientist who refuses to look at evidence clearly in front of him. Anyway,
before we,
Gary Nolan heavily featured in that piece, by the way,
which was great.
Yep. Brilliant dude. I think someone we both maybe all look up to very much.
Yeah, very much so. But I love that he is able to kind of open up his lens and let in these other ideas of like what's really happening. Where the scientific process is allowing the spiritual end to come into it, and like that's kind of the foundation of how we search out things and how these things work. Mm-hmm. Because that's, I think, maybe the only way we can, is being open to those types of things and allowing that to be part of the equation when we're trying to figure this stuff out.
Yep. Barber also sustained injuries in his duties,
right?
Which is interesting. Transporting some kind of ambiguous box or crate or something, right? And him and his entire team were told to pick up this crate, and you don't ask what's in there. Your job is to pick it up, do your thing. And him and his entire team got incredibly ill to the point where, was it the whole team lost their hair, or just did he just talk about himself?
I think he just talked about himself.
Everyone got sick, but he lost all of his hair, and he said the skin on his arm started to fall off.
Yeah.
Which is
like in
terrifying.
chunks or something he was saying?
He said like when you have a sunburn, how it's all like your skin kind of peels off.
Yeah.
His was just doing that for a while, like layers upon layers. And Gary Nolan is very well known for studying, effects people get from interactions with these craft. And Gary touched on that a bit. He studies a lot of like brain damage and people that have these weird health anomalies.
Right.
And they talked about this guy Burroughs, who in 1980, I think is when the Rendlesham Forest case was in Europe, where a craft landed in the middle of the woods. They send out some soldiers to check it out. This guy Burroughs goes up and like touches the thing, touches it. When his hand's on the craft, he gets a download of all kinds of insane information, hieroglyphics and stuff are on this craft. This guy, Burroughs, got a lot of health problems, including, I think, like long-term brain injuries.
Right.
His medical records were classified for a long time. He kept trying to get help from the government to help him with his problems. And they said, we can't, we don't know what caused you. Like, you do know what caused it. Eventually, the government acknowledged that he sustained injuries by interacting with some unknown craft, which is amazing. I mean, that itself is kind of an admission of the whole thing. So I think one cool thing, or very exciting possibility, is that Jake Barber sustained these injuries, which were clearly chronicled and probably in his medical records.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get someone like that, an American patriot, soldier, in front of Congress who has sustained injuries, the public might actually kind of start to sympathize with someone who is a veteran who sustained injuries. We all like supporting, remember the 9/11, the firefighters, first responders that all got sick, got all kinds of cancers, and it took someone like Jon Stewart doing this 10-year fight to get these guys, just acknowledge that they got hurt in the line of duty.
Yeah.
I think that Barber being in front of Congress and the public seeing this man talking about his injuries might really get some balls rolling.
Yeah, this is something like a really good actually topic to kind of merge into.
Yeah.
Is the it's like the marketing plan of how to get this out to the public. Like, what is the best method for this to be more easily digestible to the average person to make them care about it? And what does that look like
to me?
Yeah,
I think kind of what I just said. I think that's a somewhat easy. And Lester Nari, who we had on the show a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, says the same thing. That he thinks that having someone on record sustaining injuries is someone who the public will relate to that.
Yeah,
that might be a really good way to get some press. David Grush, at least publicly, is not a firsthand witness, although I believe that he is a firsthand witness. Didn't sustain injuries as far as dealing with the craft. His story is truly fantastic. By definition, it's a fantastic story. But there's not a whole lot for the general public to grip onto or to kind of sympathize with. But an injured veteran, it's kind of a great tool.
If we can't get a craft,
great tool. And this guy, Jake, started a thing called Skywatcher, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Which is what? Do you remember what that was?
It's basically just an independent group that is going out as kind of not an opposition, but as another force going out to retrieve craft.
A fucking rogue recovery team
to beat the government to crash sites is basically the general idea, right?
That is insanely exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fully funded, privately funded, and they're actually doing it.
They know how the technology works as far as how to they say that our governments know how to look at atmospheric anomalies when something has either entered the atmosphere or when something has materialized or come in from space or something. They know how to track and see where they're at. I imagine these teams or people involved in that stuff who have kind of might go rogue, I think they know how that stuff works, and maybe they can build their own technologies to look for that stuff, and it might end up being a race to recover something.
Yeah.
And Skywatcher is vowing to, when they get, they got video, they showed video. Again, it's not video that we want to show friends or whatever, but of a guy on the Psionics team. Dude, the guy is sitting in a chair with a nightshade on, a sleeping mask, just chilling, dude. And he's connecting with the craft while the team around him is I think night vision. They have video. Gary Nolan was on site. This Gary Nolan being there adds a lot of credence to this story for me. So Homeboy, just Neo in the Matrix, just chilling, connecting with the craft, flying it, and he starts having a reaction where he's uncomfortable and get me out of here. And the moment he quote disconnects from whatever, this egg-shaped, not the same egg from the video, but an egg-shaped craft falls out of the sky. They have video of it. Gary Nolan witnessed it. So it might work. I wonder, what happened to that craft then?
I don't know.
Or was that when they were
They
still...
just didn't say.
Was that part of Skywatcher?
I'm not.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, it was, because Gary wouldn't be...
I mean, he said like, yeah, there was like a warring dogfight in the sky, and the egg-shaped craft fell, and then they didn't say anything else.
Wild. And we've heard stories before about possible like UFO dogfights, where some of the crashes that we've gotten might be from like two things having like a fight in space. It's just like... Shit's getting cool, man. Shit is getting cool. But Psionics Teams, Skywatcher, because if something, let's say a rogue team knocks something or discovers something fell to Earth, and they get there first. Mm-hmm. That's what happens then.
I don't know. I hope they're good about it and show it to the public and not just try to hide it and reverse engineer it for the next 40 years.
That's what he said, that the whole point of this thing is like, we have professionals who have been on retrieval teams where we've gone rogue, and we plan to show everybody everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's so exciting.
That's awesome.
But I can't imagine a scenario where, let's say they get there first, and then, you know, the Air Force or the Navy, whoever gets there after, there's no way that the Air Force is going to be like, well, finders keepers, you did get here first. Go ahead, go about your way. There's going to be a battle. Like, I mean, there might be like an actual literal battle.
Yeah.
And like, where do you store that? How do you keep control of it? Like, what happens then?
I just hope they live stream everything that they do.
That's a way.
Yeah. There has to be complete transparency on this. Like that's the only route.
Hey, we're on Facebook Live. Got an egg back here.
Hey, well, I know, and everybody's like, it's AI.
Yeah. No one's, and even if they do that, there's going to be people that don't believe it, and that's not something we can really be concerned about.
No. But if we want legislation to happen, and if we want, you know, to push this in the right direction, then we got to get more people on board, and that's where we need to have just better content to show them. Mm-hmm. Like the branding of the Disclosure Project needs to be thought out a little bit better, I feel.
Yep.
I think we actually need to get like some marketing people on board. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're trying to completely disclose this whole UAP phenomenon, crash retrieval programs. How do we present this to the public in the best format ever? I think shows like tonight, where the content is there, it didn't have the right effect. Where like 99% of the people out there who are just like average Joes that don't pay too much attention to it, that watch it, they're just like, yeah, I've watched Ancient Aliens. Bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's what everybody will come out of with this. They're like, it's another crazy, it's aliens, dude, with the weird hair. It's like, that's what this guy is like, big bug eyes. Like, it's just, it did not serve the right purpose for the general public of trying to do that. Sorry to go back into that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, this is.
But I want to talk about like, how do we?
We don't even have our thoughts full together yet on this thing. We're so fresh to seeing this that like my thoughts are going to change or fluctuate over the next weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm riding a little high right now. I'm pretty stoked about it, even though I know it's not the thing. But I'm like,
yeah.
Again, Chad, are you sitting down? We literally may have just watched a video of a UFO crash retrieval on television.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And isn't that fucked up that I'm like kind of sitting here and I'm like, yeah, it's not enough.
That's where we are.
I know, but like that's where we are.
What do you want?
Like, I want the full thing. I literally want the doors of Area 51 to open up, and I want full access, and I want the government to acknowledge and like formally declare, if it's going to be Trump, that's fine.
The government has formally declared that we have UFOs.
I know, but like presenting them to the public and showing them and being like, this is the way our world works. We're living amongst multidimensional beings or whatever they know. Mm-hmm. Lay it out to us flat and make it a serious situation, and don't leave it for NewsNation to do an hour-long special with goofy graphics from 1998.
Fair.
Fair.
Dave Brown, what do you want?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, just better packaging, better marketing. Mm-hmm. I think, like, here's the facts, here's what we actually know, here's some stuff. And, yeah, not a documentary that at the end of it just kind of felt like one of those Finding Bigfoot TV shows where you're just like, all right, like
I felt that way to you a little bit
at the ending, definitely.
Yeah.
Like the Skywatcher and the guy. Like, I'm not saying it's not real, but it felt
it's a
very
lot to
reminiscent
swallow.
of a bunch of dudes in the woods with thermal cameras and you hear that knocking noise on trees. Like, it felt very much like those chasing monsters type TV shows. It's a little hokey. I don't know.
Got it. Okay.
But I don't. It's hard because, like, do you not cover those things if people are doing this and there is something
That's a great
to be
point.
seen there?
Like, as a producer, would you be like, "This is we can't put the Skywatcher
a lot
like
of the
Matrix
woo
guy"?
stuff? It's like it's happening and maybe there's something there, but I don't think we know enough that it's helpful to the cause to be presenting it.
It has to come from the
don't
right
know.
trusted source.
Okay, what if what we just saw was pretty much the same, different music, a little different editing, but it was on 60 Minutes?
Obviously, like that's like a different source, and a lot
Same
more
story,
Americans.
the same exact story.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Americans would respond better to that.
Would it change? Okay, well, I know we're like this is so like doesn't really matter, but if all the same information was just relayed to you on 60 Minutes, would you feel differently?
Yeah, because I feel like that's a bigger audience base. Just my personal feelings on it. No, I mean, because it's still the same thing. Because I can see through,
Okay.
the production of all this and everything. I can see what content is sitting there. I know what's actually there.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that like the messengers are wrong. Ross Coulthart, as much of a great journalist as he is and everything, it's hard to just take him seriously still. I feel like he's like still in the same realm as just like too many journalists that just like as earnest as they are and as dedicated as they are to this subject and what they're really doing is amazing work. Just the way that they present themselves sometimes, I think, only hurts the cause. And
I can understand what you mean.
And I think that's majority.
There's something about if we're going to talk about him for a minute too. I think he has moved the ball down the field. I think he's done some great work, but there's something about, to me, like the way he asks questions, even though they're good questions, it's like he knows this is such a scandalous question I'm going to ask you, and I already know the answer, but here's this like perfectly. He's asking questions for the sake of sound bites sometimes. Does that make sense?
And just like
which is not a bad thing. I understand you want to like get people to watch as much as possible, and a great soundbite. It's like a thumbnail on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
A soundbite or a thumbnail pulls you into like, did you hear what this guy just said?
Yeah.
But
it's just not one of those stories that like you got to do like the cut to like the look of the person and just like their reaction, like, oh, like you don't need those types of bits for this.
like built-in drama, dramatic moments.
Yeah, like they're adding production on top of this story that's already the most mind-blowing shit in human history.
Doesn't need it. Yeah.
You don't need this. It
Good point.
cheapens it. Like,
Good point.
I think just like they would have been better off like, hey, we built a website. Here's the video there. Here's the links to everything. You can go see it here. Here are the resources. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's almost more legitimate than like an hour-long special, where they just like have all these different bits and sound bites and just these cutaways and weird stuff. It's
a fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
But it's not up to me. They're going to do their thing. They have a show to run. They have ratings. They got the story. They love doing it. I work on making documentaries, and I know like what that takes. But this is just something that's so intrinsically important to ourselves and our beings, and like where we're going and everything that we want to know. That I want to see it done fucking right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what that is. But
Sure.
it's just not.
I mean, we're talking about like evidence and stuff. Corbell and George Knapp on the most recent episode of Weaponized, like they basically are like, yeah, straight up, we have seen, both of them said, like, we have seen truly high definition. They themselves have seen high definition. They're like, this shit everyone wants to see. We've seen all that. We're trying to find a way to release it, but we've seen it, and it's like, it's incredible. Like they have the stuff that people want to see. But then, you put it out, you go to jail. But they've kind of promised that this year, on the show or through their own channels that they're gonna be releasing some pretty phenomenal things, and hopefully that's some of it.
I hope so. Yeah.
We went to an event last night for that UFO Revolution show. Like they did a screening of it, and Jeremy and George did a Q&A afterwards with a great journalist named Grant who works for the Ojai newspaper. And at one point, George made a comment about, I believe they're talking about some sort of really good video or really, really good, that HD stuff. And George made a comment of like, wouldn't it be great if some of that stuff leaked out pretty soon? But kind of like in a very coy way. So I wonder if they have something up their sleeve as far as that goes. But I'm all ears. I can't wait.
Give it to us, George.
Yeah, give it to us. And before we wrap up, I thought that Barber used a really cool term that I hadn't heard yet. Over the last couple years, we're inundated with this term ontological shock.
Yeah.
Ontological shock. Like when people get it, it's going to rock the foundation. People are going to panic. People are going to be in shock. And he used the term ontological relief, which I loved. Do you remember when he said that?
No, I don't,
Yeah,
but
he
I
said
love that.
ontological relief of like, finally we're talking about it. And he's referring to like, so many people know there's something to this. They know there's a connection to spirit and mind and consciousness and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying like, the skies are not classified. Your conscious is not, you can't redact your conscious or whatever. And then he said, I think people will experience ontological relief. And I love that term.
That's great.
Love it. I hope to hear more from this guy. He has said so far, I don't know if he said it publicly or privately, but I was told that he said he plans to do a couple, 2 or 3 interviews and kind of get out.
Okay.
He doesn't really want to be a guy. We'll see if that's true.
Okay.
But I hope he talks more about that. And I hope he's kind of a source of positivity towards things, because it sounds like he has been fundamentally affected, and people should know more about that.
Absolutely.
Interesting shit.
All right.
I'm probably going to watch that again. I know that Ross Coulthart has his own sort of like a NewsNation offshoot YouTube show called Reality Check, and that's ready to watch as well. It's like an hour-long show,
great.
like a wrap-up of the show he just did. So
Excellent.
I'm definitely going to watch that tonight and see if there's more information. I hope we do hear from Barber more, but my initial feelings, I'm stoked.
I'm still stoked.
Anything new is good, and
yeah. Sorry for all the negativity and
but
everything.
don't apologize.
And- But I'm still genuinely stoked that this is happening, and that what I just witnessed tonight could potentially be actual video of a recovered craft for the first time in our lives, and that's
incredible. That's the first one of more. That's a pretty great first one. I know you've said you referred to it as a grainy video a couple times. I don't find it necessarily grainy. I think it's kind of clear what you're seeing. Oh, I have one gripe actually, if we could talk about it during it before we wrap up.
Yep.
At one point, I believe Barber was talking about how when they approached it, it was a nighttime recovery, right? And he was wearing night vision goggles. But then he also referred to it. He said, pearly white metallic. How could he tell that with night vision goggles on? I don't know how night vision works, but
a good question. I have no idea.
Could you tell that kind of thing?
He said he took his night vision goggles off and he looked at it through the goggles without a couple different.
So was that in the dark, or maybe there was lights on the ground to illuminate? Like maybe there's a team already on the ground. Good point. That's a good point.
He did say he looked at it without his night vision goggles.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, that clears that up a little bit. Then that makes sense. Cool.
Great.
Closing words, Chad.
Ontological relief.
Ontological relief.
I love that, and I want that to happen.
Cool. I'm sure there will be a lot more to this story, and I look forward to chatting with you guys about it.
Same.
So thank you guys for listening to Others from Another Mother, and to be continued.
We got some great guests coming up, by the way, too.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Some very cool ones.
Some very cool ones. We won't hint anything yet, but it's be exciting.
Looking forward to it. And we'll be back. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Dave.
Later, fellas.
They are others from another mother. What do we want to say? We are others from another mother. Will they let us stay? When